Hey my friends, Kirby Andersen here. So good to be with you again. As always, I never take it for granted to have this chance to be with you, and just thank you for spending a few moments with me on this video today. I want to talk with you today about staying on target. How that you can hit your mark even though you feel like you are off course, probably more than what you would like to feel. You know, I hate to admit it right now, it's dating me, but it's been 40 years ago since I saw the original Star Wars, A New Hope. Episode 4 came out. I drove over 50 miles to go to see this thing, and it was an experience. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen before, just a small farm boy up in Iowa. The technology was unprecedented. You got special effects, and the whole movie was so memorable. But evidently there was one scene and one particular quote that really was indelibly stamped upon my mind because it has made its way into the culture of my family and those who know me ever since that time. It all was around this line of stay on target. Now you'll remember the scene. It's towards the climax of the story. And the rebellion is mounting this assault against this Death Star, which seems to be so formidable that nobody's going to be able to take it out. But they've gotten some new information that if you were just to drop this little torpedo down this little rabbit hole, there was a vulnerability would blow the whole thing sky high. So now you've got the rebellion that's coming in, and the first of the Jedi fighters is going down what looks to be like this Grand Canyon on this small planet of machinery. It's going through it who knows how fast, hundreds of miles an hour. It's getting shot at, it's having to dodge other fighters, enemy fighters, and to make matters worse, Darth Vader's on his tail. I mean, that's never a good thing. So everything in this fighter is just screaming, abort, I gotta get out of here. And in the midst of all of this, you've got a squadron leader that comes on, and you know the line, stay on target, stay on target. Man, I absolutely love that. And my kids are going to be busting a gut right now because I say that so many times when they're considering different options or we're examining circumstances that are coming against us. If you're one of my coaching clients, you know that this is something that I like to use with you as well. And if you've read my blog for any length of time, it is always going to be something that I'm going to remind you of. I've gotten a lot of mileage out of this. So let me just ask you, have you ever felt like you're off course? I mean, man, you've set some great goals. You got excited about some worthwhile goal you want to work towards to improve your own life in some way. You get a really good start. And then after a short period of time, you're realizing, man, I'm off target here a little bit. How did this happen? I mean, that's the classic thing around the New Year's, right? I mean, you set some great lofty goal around for a New Year's resolution. And then several days, several weeks into it, it's like, man, what happened here? And I get that. Of course you've had that feeling. I've had that more times than what I want to count. I've been a goal setter for a long time. I mean, everything that I do is very intentional. I love to plan, and I'm a good planner. And I put a lot into it. In fact, I'm probably a better planner than I am an executor. I put that much time into it, and I love my plan and know that it's going to work. And it's the reason why I get so frustrated when my plan doesn't go the way that I planned. When I get sidetracked and I get so down on myself and so despondent. And maybe like me, you also have charted your course before and you said, man, I really want a much better marriage. I want to have this great relationship with my kids. I want to have an awesome family. And you set out to do that, but so often we are disappointed by our own personal lapses in our performance. And we're just wondering, are we going to get anywhere? Am I ever going to amount to anything? Am I going to achieve these simple things that I desire out of my life? Well, we all tend to get off course at some point in time or another, and we all feel like we're just totally blowing it. And that's why probably the most helpful analogy for me to keep perspective was one that I heard a number of years ago by the guy I quote a lot. He was kind of my virtual mentor, and that was Stephen Covey. And I remember him giving this analogy of an airliner, much like what we know takes off of any great city. Thousands of times every day, we've got these flights going from one city to another city. And he said that every one of these airliners, with all of the sophisticated technology available to them and everything else, the reality is that they are technically off course the majority of the time that they're in the air. And yet, amazingly, they hit their destination at pretty much the appointed time. Now, how in the world can that possibly happen? It's all due to just constant course corrections along the way. You see, you understand that when this great airliner takes off, they've got their instruments zeroed in on these little vectors, and it's all supposed to get them there perfectly. They've got it all charted out. But the fact of the matter is that there's so many other unforeseen little factors, whether it's wind or who knows whatever, that these great airliners, after a period of time, they're going to slowly just get off just a little bit, and maybe it's only a half a degree in their trajectory. That's not a big deal if the pilot is constantly paying attention and brings it back on course in line with the instrument. But if he left it for too long a period of time, that little adjustment that was left uncorrected is going to cause them to miss their destination by perhaps hundreds of miles. So again, great pilots are technically off course the vast majority of the time that they're in the air. And yet we still consider them to be great pilots. I mean, we pay them huge sums of money. These are the ones that we put our lives into their hands. And we consider them doing a great job, even though they're off target technically the majority of the time. So what that should tell you and me is chances are you and I are doing a whole lot better than maybe what we're giving ourselves credit for. I mean, you may feel that you're off course more times than not. It'll certainly more times than what you want to be. But if you're constantly making these course corrections along the way so that you can stay on target, you're going to get to your destination. So here's a couple of things that help me to stay on target and to get the job done. Very simple things. Number one, you're going to have to know your target. I know that seems like being a master of the obvious here, but there's an old Norwegian proverb that has really helped me over the years to remember this principle, and it simply says this, that no wind is the right wind if you don't know to which harbor you're sailing. That's a good one for all of you who are sailboat hobbyists, and you understand that you're relying upon the wind. But what this is saying here is that if you don't know where you're going, then you're not really sure that this particular wind, this particular road, this particular action is going to get you there. There are so many people today who are complaining, and I've probably been in that place myself, perhaps you have been too, complaining about what's going on in my life right now. And yet if somebody were to say, well, what do you want to have happen? Well, I'm not really sure, but I just know it's not this. That's not good enough. You've got to know your target first of all. Otherwise, how can you begin to make a plan? How do you know if this action, this attitude, this relationship is going to get you to your intended destination? You're going to have to ask yourself, what do you want out of your family? What kind of marriage do you want? Are you in the state of health that you want to be? What do you really want? Don't just say, I don't like this. What do I want? You're going to have to know your destination to know your target. Secondly, you're going to have regular times when you're going to monitor your progress. You're going to have to set up checkpoints along the way to evaluate your progress. That can be as simple as just a weekly planning time. Sitting down for 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the week to plan out your course for the upcoming week. And not just to look ahead, but before you even do that, to look back over your shoulder and to say, last week I wanted to get this done. This is who I wanted to become. These are the things that I intended to do. How did I do? Have I veered off target here a little bit? Do I need to get back on course? Maybe there's some course corrections that I need to make right now. I wanted to get up at 6 o'clock every morning. But you know something? I only did it 5 out of the 7 days because doggone it, I stayed up too late. And I know that that doesn't work for me. So I'm going to have to make that course correction right now so that I can get back to the intended result. These things are so important. It's important for you to do that with your spouse if you're married. Maybe a monthly discussion where you just sit down and you just say, how are we doing? Or guys, it's probably safer just to say, how am I doing? I don't want to ask, I don't want to tell her how she's doing. I'd just soon play it safe and just say, honey, how I'm doing. I've intended to work harder on this right now. I know you've said this would help you out a lot. Eliminate this from my vocabulary. Be a little bit more intentional, a little bit more considerate, a little bit more conscientious. How am I doing? These are so important because what gets measured and monitored gets managed. So you're going to have some times where you're going to be looking to see if you need to make some of these course corrections. And the third thing is just simply to remember consistency is the key. You remember the tortoise and the hare? Everybody's betting on that rabbit. He seemed to be the guy who was a quick starter, had it all going for him. But who was it who won the race? Mr. Slow and Steady, the tortoise. Plod on, plod on, plod on. And you may have a day or a week when you're feeling like you're not on target at all, and that's okay. It's not as catastrophic as what it may feel like. Just keep at it. None of us are on target 100% of the time. There's going to be little bumps along the way, but if I just keep being consistent and let the majority of my actions be that which characterizes me, not everything rises and falls just on one little lapse along the way. I'm going to stay on it and keep after it. That's the key to staying on target. I love it. I'm going to say it again. Stay on target. Stay on target. Man, that's where it's at. And even though you may feel that you're off course more times than not, if you constantly monitor and make adjustments along the way, you're going to get to where you want to be. You're going to hit that mark. And so, did you get off track just a little bit yesterday? Maybe you broke your stride over the holidays. I understand that. We've all been there. Today's a new day. Course correct, get back after it again. So ask yourself this, what's the one thing? The one thing that you could do today that would make that slight adjustment and make such a huge difference to get you back on the course that you've charted for yourself, that's going to get you to where you want to be. Determine what it is, get after it, and make it happen. I hope that helps you as much as it helps me. I love this stuff. I've got to be reminded of it a lot myself. And if you enjoyed this today and you want to make sure you get future videos as they come out, I want to encourage you to go to my website at KirbyAndersen.com. You can subscribe to my email newsletter there. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can just click that little red button that says subscribe. And until next time, I just want to remind you that this is all about living better, loving more, and leaving the legacy that we all desire. I hope you have an awesome day, and remember, above all else, stay on target.